Welcome to the Royal Caribbean Blog Podcast, your weekly look into the world of Royal Caribbean cruising. I'm your host, Matt Hodgberg, and this is episode number 563. Royal Caribbean has made it no secret that they are targeting Orlando. It's a tribute to all the resorts there, but mostly Walt Disney World. And to that point, I wanted to bring on Len Testa from touringplans.com to talk about why Royal Caribbean is going after this market, what it means, and how they're actually going to compete with the mouse. Here we go. One of the big trends in cruising these days is obviously cruise lines going after new business, and Royal Caribbean has not made it a secret, I think that's grammatically correct, that they want to target not only new cruisers, but they really want to go after the Florida vacation market. And when they say Florida vacation market, when they say land resorts, they're really talking about Disney World. And today, I wanted to bring on the foremost expert on all things Walt Disney World. He is not only a member of Mensa, he is not only a sourcing founder and funder of a Pittsburgh Steelers, they don't call it spring training camp podcast, I think, back in the day. And yeah, and also, of course, a very good friend of mine, Mr. Len Testa from touringplans.com. Welcome, Len.
How's it going, Matt?
Outstanding.
Thanks for having me on the show, man. It's been too long.
Of course, absolutely. And I wanted to ask you, I got to start with the most important question. What's going on with Sammy Hagar and Alex Van Halen right now?
I don't know, dude. Alex is going through some stuff, when Eddie died and everything. And I think Sammy wants to have Alex out to do some sort of like Eddie tribute thing, which I'm all for an Eddie Van Halen tribute concert, but it has to be everyone that's ever played in the band, big tent thing. Mm-hmm. And I don't know how everyone's approaching that. So it's really difficult, man. It's just, I wish we could all just get along one time for one tribute concert, and then, the fans will be happy. So
I feel like we need to let our audience know that the reason why Len and I know each other is not because we have a mutual admiration for all things classic rock, but also because we used to do a podcast together back in the day. I say back in starting in 2005, for about 10 years, we did a Disney World podcast that I'm still seeking therapy about. But
we both, brother. If we knew then what we knew now, what we knew now.
Oh my God.
Exactly. So much fun though.
Yeah, no, it was a great time. And obviously we both knew a lot about Disney. Len still continues to operate in that sphere, and God bless you, child, for continuing Lord's work there. That's eons from now.
Helping people save time and money at Disney World. That's my get out of jail free card when I die and go to the pearly gates.
I think you'll be canonized as the patron saint of waiting too long for bad rides.
Yeah, that's it. That's my contribution to society. So yeah.
But you've obviously kept track of what's happening, and Disney has changed a lot. I mean, we stopped our podcast in 2015, and my goodness, we could do a couple hours just talking about what's happened since that point. But they've evolved, they've changed, they made some things that good, some things bad, like every company out there. And Royal Caribbean has also moved in a direction where they're trying to not only continue that family cruising market that they've always been a part of, but truly go after the Orlando market there. How do you perceive the competition, if you will, between a land resort, and this could be Universal as well, let's be fair, between Royal Caribbean, Universal, and Disney World? How does that kind of like fit in your mind?
One of the things we saw coming out of the pandemic was that it was definitely a return to cruising, but also remember coming out of the pandemic that Disney World made a number of operational changes to how families visit the parks. You had to make reservations. You had to pay for things like ride reservations that you never had to pay for before. And that is added on top of things like the fact that you have to make dining reservations 60 days in advance and so on. So we saw a number of things, a number of families giving feedback that it all had just become too complicated, right? And what we started seeing was people shifting over to cruises, because unlike planning a trip to Walt Disney World, you pay one price for a cruise, all of your meals are set, you have your your dining rotation is set, the entertainment is already set. You can show up at a cruise, not plan anything else, and have a pretty good time, which is definitely not the case in Walt Disney World anymore. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Certainly from a leisure standpoint, I think there's
Yeah.
the appeal there.
Yeah. And so you pay, you know what you're paying ahead of time. And you can show up and have a good time. Requires a lot less planning. And Disney Cruise Line has definitely not slowed down the way that the parks have slowed down. And so I think what other cruise lines are looking at now is, since we have this group of people who are visiting Orlando, whether it's for Walt Disney World, whether it's for Universal Orlando's new Epic Universe theme park, right? These are people who may add a cruise on to the beginning or end of their trip. The most logical place for that being Central Florida is Port Canaveral. Maybe we should look at Port Canaveral for launching more ships.
It makes sense. You know, it's
Yeah.
interesting when I when I got out of the whole Disney thing, one of the big
Mhm.
problems I saw
When you detoxed, go
when I
ahead.
detoxed, yeah. When I recovered my soul, I noticed that one of the things that Disney was definitely doing was they were clearly going after the one-time visitor, the person who's going to go there, drop, you know,
Mm,
I would say
yeah.
$10,000. That's probably now that's probably a value resort, but
Oh, you adorable man, you $10,000. Yeah.
but
Uh,
the family that's going to go there, the once in a lifetime or once in 10 years, you know, basically to go there. And that was kind of their where they were kind of pivoting towards. And Royal Caribbean
yeah.
also is definitely hot and heavy over the first time cruiser. I mean, they actually just shared, we're recording this episode the same day Royal Caribbean Group had its earnings call, and they talked
Mhm.
about how about 40% of their business right now is loyal repeat customers. So if you do the math, that's 60% are new to cruise, new to their brand. And
Right.
that's a big number, obviously, but that's where their bread and butter is. So it seems like they're kind of like they're both Royal and Disney are targeting the same type of customer, right? The I want to take my family on an amazing vacation because we really
Mhm.
don't take that many trips, or we've never taken a trip, or whatever the case may be. Want to make a really big splash. Do you get the same sense?
I think we're looking at two different approaches. Like Disney, to your point, is now looking for people doing that once in a lifetime trip, right?
Hmm.
And your point is super expensive. A Disney World vacation costs more than 80% of American households spend on travel for an entire year, right? So they're definitely targeting like the top 20% and even really the top 10% of American households by income. Um, the problem with that is that Disney theme parks have a lot of operate with a lot of nostalgia. Like you went there because your parents took you there.
Yep.
You took your kids there. Your kids will take your grandkids there because you took them, right? But when you change from that every 3 to every 5 year model that Disney World has, and you change it to once in a lifetime because that's what you can afford, you break that cycle, or you risk breaking the cycle, right? And so I think what we see with Royal is, yeah, it's great that 40% of our customers are repeat customers. That's a great number, by the way. I mean, I think any travel destination that could get 40% repeats would be thrilled. But I think what you see with the 60%, and especially with the the new ships that Royal's putting out, they're really trying to get those people into the practice of going on a Royal vacation a few times, a couple times a decade.
Yeah.
And so Disney's getting away from the model that made them successful, and Royal is starting to adopt it. And it's two really, really interesting things
Yeah.
for a
And
variety of reasons. Yeah.
yeah. And the big chess piece that I think Royals moving into the market, and it's really no secret, is Star of the Seas, which will debut in Port Canaveral later this
August?
summer. Yeah, August,
Yeah.
exactly. And Icon has been such a big hit. Star is going to be very similar to Icon. There'll be a few
Mhm.
nuances, but this is really meant to, and they said this from day one, they don't really play their cards too close to the vest here. They wanted to really compete with that Orlando vacation market. They already have Utopia of the Seas there
Oh,
for
yeah.
almost a year now, that's been trying to go after that. I think that's been going after the people that are doing Disney World, but also want to add on a cruise component, like a day land and sea kind of thing out there. What's your outlook on Star of the Seas, and how do you think that'll factor in?
I mean, if you look at the Port Canaveral sailing numbers for Royal just in the first part of this year, they are doing gangbusters on the big ships. So Utopia is sailing out at like 93% capacity.
Hmm.
Wonder's sailing at like 96% capacity. So adding on another ship in that class is definitely going to draw more people there. I'm not even sure that we have to worry about oversaturating the market yet, because it looks like people will just move from the older ships
Hmm.
like the Vision and Symphony and stuff like that to the newer ships.
Yeah, I mean that's
So
definitely the push they're doing for sure. By the way, I also want to give credit and call you out at the same time for doing
go ahead.
research before a podcast recording.
I know.
I could when we did a podcast together, I could barely get you to show up for the damn thing, let alone do research for it.
So before the show, I looked at Port Canaveral's numbers and I created a spreadsheet bringing together a bunch of different diverse sources, basically to tell Matt this is what I'm going to say on the show. Make sure you understand make sure we all agree on the numbers and everything. So, yeah. So yeah, but if you look at the numbers, like all the big ships are doing well. In fact, Royal's numbers out of Port Canaveral just for this year are up like 70%, 60% versus the same time in 2024. It's just, and their occupancy numbers are up. I mean, Port Canaveral is where it's at.
Yeah, I mean they're doing really well, Royal that is, and they're definitely moving in a direction, in terms of their business. And again, they just shared their earnings, and they don't even show any signs of softness given the macroeconomic conditions that they're looking at currently. So it's really intriguing. And where is Disney, by the way, in all of this? I've not been paying attention to this like recently with the tariffs and some of the economic concerns about a recession and whatnot. What's your outlook on how that impacts potentially a Disney World vacation?
Well, the interesting thing for Disney, let's talk about cruise first.
Sure.
So the three big ships on Disney ships that are sailing out of Port Canaveral are the Fantasy, the Treasure, and the Wish. And the Treasure's new, right? The Fantasy is a longtime favorite for a lot of people. It's doing well. Its numbers are holding steady. I think it's in the low 90s for occupancy as well. Treasure kind of new, so a lot of people want to be on the new ship. The interesting thing to me is the Wish. The Wish is actually down in terms of occupancy by a low single digit percent. But for a newer, larger ship like that, you have to wonder whether, given the strength of the numbers that we see for Royal, whether people are just saying, you know what, I gave Disney all of this money for Disney World. I'm going to take a cruise, but Royal Caribbean is a newer, bigger ship, and it's cheaper. Why don't I just go on Royal for my cruise? So there could be some sort of like multi-brand vacation strategy there for yeah.
I think what's interesting though, you brought this up, and now that you're talking about these numbers, something else, I think there's an X factor also where Royal's going after the Disney crowd, but you mentioned this, and I think you're absolutely right. Like there's a nostalgia factor when it comes to Disney. Like if this were Royal Caribbean versus Las Vegas, which there is a little bit of that, I think there's more parity there. But if your parents brought you to Disney World when you were a kid, I think on some level that means more to you probably to want to repeat Disney or go to Disney for the first time as opposed to a Royal cruise where you don't have any kind of affinity for it. And I wonder how much that'll I don't think it's a huge thing, but I do think that it is a factor in why people choose Disney World in general. And Universal's been facing this for the last, 40 years.
Yeah. I think one of the things that Royal's trying to get at with that 60% new customer thing is once you try a cruise, if you like it, you will go on more cruises.
Yeah.
Right. Whereas Disney World, to your point, is like a one and done or a once every kid and done, type thing. But a cruise is a viable vacation destination, especially when you don't want to make plans or you don't really necessarily care where you go. You just want to see the ocean and get some sun.
Yep.
So there's a lot of options there. Also, Disney World is Disney World, the Disney World that you and I visited as kids is similar to the Disney World that we visit now, but no one's going on a ship that's 25 years old. Right. So, or very few people do. There's actually I watched one of your podcasts or one of your YouTube videos. What's the Royal Caribbean ship out of Tampa that's you went on like a bachelor's party?
Oh,
no, you went on with some guy.
Yeah.
Enchantment of the Seas. Because I was trying to talk Laurel into going on Enchantment because you can get that. It's out of Tampa, right? You can get that for as low as $55 a night because it's the oldest ship in the fleet.
Yep.
And it's $55 a night. Why do I have a condo? Like, I mean,
yeah, it's dirt cheap right there for sure.
And there are people that love that ship for that reason. Mm-hmm. I get it. But I think, just based on the numbers that we're seeing, that people want the newer, bigger ships with, all the spectacle and everything. So that's why I think, Star of the Seas is going to do well.
I'm going to ask you a question, but I'm also, I'm not sure it'll play the way I think. So I'll put this up there anyway. So you have a daughter. If you were to now, like your daughter, my kids are also jaded because of the work that we've done over the years, where they've been there, done that. It's like it just doesn't hold the same thing. However, if
Yeah.
you were to ask your daughter, hey, let's do a trip. It's gonna be, whoever, you can include whomever you want on this trip, right? But it's more than just you and her, but we're gonna do a family vacation. And your
Mhm.
choices are Star of the Seas or Walt Disney World. What do you think your daughter would pick?
Ooh, that's a tough one. Uh, she might do cruise, because she's been to Disney World so much. And I'll mention this. Hannah and I just went on Virgin Voyages. We just went on uh Valiant Lady like 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. So she definitely likes to cruise and she likes Virgin as a product as well. Yeah, so she might do that. If you said like Disneyland
Mhm.
versus a cruise, somewhere she hasn't been as often, that might be different. But yeah, I think there's at least a 50-50 chance she would take a Royal Caribbean cruise. Yeah.
Okay.
For
For
her,
the
it's going to come down to like, what does
what
the spa
cabin?
look like?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. Oh, I didn't
That's
tell
my
you this story, did I? Okay.
no.
So I'm the dad and I plan everything. So when I take Hannah on vacation, I write a 14-page document that says this, I book everything for everyone, right? So Hannah brings a friend. In this case, her friend's name is Gabby. And basically because Hannah is an extrovert, Gabby is there to absorb all of the words from Hannah that I can't absorb because she talks so much, right? So I sent Hannah this 14-page document ahead of time, right? Like, this is your flight, this is Gabby, this is your flights, this is where we're staying, this is your reservation number on Virgin, everything. Okay, so we pull up the port, and the porter is there, and he asks us for our stateroom numbers, and I give him the stateroom numbers, and he looks at me, he goes, Mr. Testa, and I said, yeah. And then he looks at Hannah and he goes, like something like, Miss Rabinowitz. And I'm like, no, should be Testa. And okay. So Hannah and I have both been on Virgin 5 times. They upgraded Hannah to a suite, but not me.
Not you.
So I tried to, so, when when you're in a suite, it's just like being, if you sat on any cruise line, there's a special area for you to go in where you don't mingle with the unwashed masses like me, right? So I'm talking to the guy. I'm like, well, look, Hannah doesn't have a credit card to put down for incidentals. Can I just, check in with her, go through the lounge and check in? Cause, it's my fifth cruise and everything too. He's like, he looked at me like I was asking him to hold a weasel. It was like, I'm sorry, sir. There's a completely separate boarding process. If you need to put a credit card down on her stateroom, you can do it once you get on board. Okay. So that's fine. So Hannah, we get into the cruise terminal and it's a giant glass room, right?
Mhm.
And the swanky people in the suites are in one section, and there's a glass wall between us. And it just so happened that I was able to get on board in the very first boarding because again, I status on Virgin. So I walk up and I see Hannah, and we're waving through the glass at each other. And then somebody walks up to Hannah with a tray of champagne and canapes, and Hannah completely forgets that I exist.
This sounded almost like the episode, the Star Trek movie where Spock and Kirk, and Spock is dying, and she puts her hand up. You put your hand up on the glass. You were always been and always will be my
Oh,
friend.
yeah,
But
and then
before
it
the
like
words come out, the canopies are there. So bye.
yeah, and then she turned to grab the champagne, and something else distracted her, and that was it. Then eventually I caught her up with her on the ship, but yeah, like yeah, thanks for that. Anyway,
Yeah. By the way, just to prove how loving Len is as a family member, we got to talk about share a quick story about your sister. You have two sisters, but Christina, and do you
hmm
remember the bus incident with the
yes,
poncho?
of course, yeah.
Which is my Christina, by the way, definitely put our podcast on the map.
Oh yeah, yeah.
We had her on and we thought, okay, well, Len's well spoken, knows what, it's great, and she worked part-time for you at the time, so
Mhm.
certainly the level of professionalism here would be
Oh,
not
fantastic.
a
Yeah,
question.
really up there. Yeah.
Yeah. She came on the podcast. I think she advocated knocking over kids' ice creams in Disney World or something, to the point where it
Yeah.
became like a viral thread about it that people were getting angry.
Look, if you're trying to be the first in line for a ride, like Flight of Passage or Guardians of the Galaxy, and there are children ahead of you that are eating, it is absolutely acceptable to smack the food out of their mouths so that their parents have to stop and console them, allowing you to get ahead of them in line. Like I think that's a strategy. That's a rope drop strategy, Matt. I don't see what the problem is.
That's Len at touringplans.com.
Len at Touring Plans. Exactly.
But
Do you want to skip the line or no? Yeah, go ahead.
tell us the story about the bus though, with the when you had her working there to get wait times, and she wasn't exactly 100% of that day.
She was undergoing some food poisoning. So one of the things that we used to do for the unofficial guide for touring plans was to ride the bus back and forth between a park and a resort so that we knew how long it was going to take on average. This was in the days before apps that told you that kind of information. And so one of the things that Chrissy had to do was go between, I think it was like Boardwalk and Magic Kingdom, just over and over again throughout the day, just seeing how long it takes for the bus to get you there and back so we could time both directions of the travel. So Chrissy was not feeling well because she had some food poisoning at the time. And the bus was full as it left the Magic Kingdom, and it was raining, so she had a poncho on. But then she began to feel unwell. She ended up taking off her poncho so she could throw up into the poncho because she was not feeling well. And she said the other families looked at her like she was detoxing from heroin. So everyone moved away from her on the seat. But the funniest thing was she actually she was on the bus for so long. She thought that the bus was gonna, once it went to Boardwalk, was gonna go back to the Magic Kingdom, but that was the end of the bus driver's shift. So the bus driver went back to wherever the bus parking lot is, I think behind Epcot somewhere, and just parked the bus and got out. And didn't realize that Chrissy was there. So she had to go find someone to say, "Hey, can you give me a ride back?" So she's holding this like vomit-filled green poncho, saying, "Can you give me a ride back?" Like, oh, okay. Good times,
Yeah.
Chrissy. Yeah.
But listen, we all pitched in and helped Len out at one point, including myself. There was a time where I was out of college, didn't have a lot of money, and Len, being the generous gentleman that he is, was like, "Hey, we need to do some hotel research, and if you want to come down and stay in the room, just let our team go in there and check out the hotel." Great, that's a great idea, and I love that. So I was bestowed upon with the distinct task of checking into the Howard Johnson Main Gate East Hotel, which
Oh, yeah.
no longer exists. But I did my part. I got down there, checked in, left a key for the folks at the research team who go in and did all the stuff to evaluate the room. So I go there, I stay there for the weekend. Cool. Come back, talk to Len. He's like, "Hey, yeah, thanks for doing that." By the way, the research team got back to me. You didn't actually stay in that hotel room, did you?
Please tell me you didn't.
Yeah.
Have you developed a rash?
Yeah. So
Yeah, good times.
those were good old days, man. I mean, lot of stuff
Yeah.
happened in there. Do you miss it at all? Like that level of like footwork? Because now you're right, it's all APIs and a lot of data is already collected for you.
Well, the hotel room thing we still have to do. You still have to stay in a hotel room to evaluate it.
Yep.
It's gotten a lot more consistent. So over time, one of the things that we've seen is that more and more people are just deciding to stay on site. The Disney hotels aren't terribly more expensive than a comparable hotel on 192 or on iDrive. And everything's clean, everything's functional. Your safety is very, very good. So people just aren't even bothering with the budget hotels on 192, which is kind of it's sad in a way because it was fun research, but I don't miss like having to figure out whether this lock on my door that's made out of plastic is going to keep anyone out, long enough for me to hear them coming in. I don't miss that sort of thing, and I don't miss having to, sleep in 100 different hotels a year. That's not something. But yeah, I mean, I miss having the stories. I don't miss acquiring the stories.
Sure.
Like the Howard Johnsons that you were in. I think I had to tell you that was the one that it's not there anymore, so I can say it. That's the one that I woke up in covered in bugs.
Ugh.
And so we had to go back a year later and figure it out. Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
So, yeah, good times.
I live to tell the tale. I don't think it was that bad, actually. I've stayed in far worse. Let's put it that way.
Yeah,
but
it's yeah, and I'm glad now. I mean, plus there's so many hotels in Disney, just and in Universal, so keeping track of all of those is.
What's your favorite off-site hotel near Disney World these days? A lot of people are coming for Orlando anyway for their cruises, and they're looking for a good place to stay. So what's a good place? A couple of hotels you recommend off-site?
I mean, the Bonnet Creek ones. I was just at the Signia in Bonnet Creek, which is the old Hilton, and that's really nice. It does a lot of convention traffic, but if you've got Hilton points, it's a good place for that. I would still drive myself to the parks. I wouldn't rely on their own internal transportation. I think that's good. Um, and then if you've got Marriott points, the Marriott's just east of I-4, like Grand Villas, Harbor Lakes,
Oh yeah.
places like that. I mean, you can get 1,200 square foot, two-bedroom villas for a couple $100 a night. You can't beat that for this space. And again, you're gonna have to drive anywhere if you're staying off site. But if you've got Marriott loyalty numbers, those are really good. Yeah.
I've stayed at those Marriott's. One of my friends who lives in town, Earl, who go Bills. He
Mhm.
he usually stays there for like staycations, and they're great.
Yeah.
They're great spots. I mean, really nice, lots of space for everybody.
Yeah.
Pools, the whole the works.
Yeah, I mean, on-site dining's not great,
Yeah,
but if you've got a car and you're going to spend all day in the parks anyway, so
yeah,
the one downside, and Disney's kind of emphasized this, if you're staying off-site, you're getting into all the parks 30 minutes after everyone else who's staying on-site,
yeah.
and that's a huge disadvantage. So you end up having to either stay longer or buying things like Lightning Lane to offset the amount of time you're going to wait in line. But I mean, in general, the amount of money you're saving on lodging is considerable, so you can afford stuff like that.
Yeah. I went to Epcot, and this was my first Disney park in, God, I think since the pandemic, at least. I don't remember
Oh,
when it was before
geez.
that one.
Okay.
So I did a day in Epcot because a good mutual friend of ours, Becky Menken, allowed me to bestowed upon me a free ticket to go there to check it out.
Oh, there you go.
So I did Guardians. I got Len. I don't know if I'm just getting old, man. That thing made me so sick, like
No, I
motion
know, me
nauseous.
too.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's like it used to be. The only ride that got made me nauseous was Expedition Everest. If I did it
Yeah.
more than once in a row, like the backwards part, I did
Yeah.
it once, I'd be okay. If I did it like two or three times, I'd get nauseous. This was like Mission Space, old school, knocking people over kind of ride. It was just like I was like, Matt wants off, and it was not
it's
fun.
it's it's funny because the same thing for me. And it's really intense. I think sitting in the back helps out with that a lot. But yeah, there's some rides where it's like, okay, I met my limit here. I've been to Epic Universe already for previews and stuff, and Stardust Racers is one of those rides where it's like, if this ride were 30 seconds longer, would be having a problem. But it's great the way it is, but you could tell like
Yeah.
if this was any, I met my limit, I'm done. This is pleasant, and if it went on any farther, I would be not happy. So
What do you
yeah.
think of Epic Universe?
I like it a lot. They've done a number of really good things. There's at least one really great attraction in every land. Um, so I think Monsters Unchained looks great. Ministry of Magic looks fantastic. But even Mario Kart, is great. I played that in Universal Studios Hollywood as well. And then Isle of Berk is just going to be fun for families. The big thing for them is going to come down to execution. Like, are the rides reliable? And is there enough park capacity for the number of people that they're going to let in? And we're not going to know that until day one. But uh, they've got everything else right. The food is great. The attractions are pretty solid. I think if we weren't having to deal with tariffs and figuring out how much stuff costs when it's imported, I would say that Universal would probably already be building some of the expansion pads that they've got for Epic, but now that's really tough to price. So
Interesting. Bringing it back to cruise for a second. I know you mentioned
Mhm.
already Virgin, and I know from the
Mm.
stories I've heard from one Billy Hirsch from cruisehabit.com,
Yeah,
you're a man of the people, but you're really a man of the people on board Virgin. The
I,
champagne the champagne flows when Len is on board, I've heard.
yeah. So Hannah and I were on the very first cruise, the very first Virgin cruise ever, with Billy and Larissa. And one of the things that we decided to do then was to buy champagne when we were on Bimini, Beach Club at Bimini, Virgin's private island. And it just so happened that I guess the regional distributor for
Mhm.
Moet, was there. So we ended up buying all of the champagne that they had on the island, and they ran out, which was only like 20 bottles.
Okay.
Um, Only 20 bottles. And then so they had to run back and get more. And I've never seen a sales rep run faster than that Moet sales rep when we ran out. So yeah, so it was a lot of fun. It was great. I like Virgin a lot. I like the vibe on the ship quite a bit. I like people, people that we meet and everything. It's definitely a different feeling from the guests than from Disney or Royal. Even Celebrity, it's different than that. And I like Celebrity a lot. Yeah, so I like Virgin quite a bit. I was a little bit sad that I couldn't get Billy to go with me, but we got to go. We all have to go on a cruise at some point together.
That'd be a great idea. But I was curious about your thoughts on Virgin because obviously I know that you've been on there a couple
I
times, and
I
despite
like
your daughter,
yeah.
you're not able to get the cool perks. But still, sounds like you had a
I
nice
know, I
time.
know. I like the product a lot. I wish the ships were more differentiated.
Yeah,
So we were just on Valiant Lady, sorry, and I've been on Scarlet Lady before, and the ships are identical. Like literally everything is exactly the same, ship to ship. And that's great for the first couple of cruises, but I do want some variety in dining. I want some variety in the spa, and I get why they don't do that. You build the first few to save
yeah.
money and everything, but over time I want to see differentiation. So
I've talked about this on my YouTube channel, but I just my problem with Virgin off the bat was they did this whole like we're not a cruise line, man, but we're still gonna. And then they made errors and mistakes that clearly there's a reason why the whole cruise industry does certain things, and they reversed
yeah.
some of those things. But I find that they have a too cool for school vibe, and that kind of turns me off, quite frankly. Like
Hmm.
I don't know, something about it. Also the whole the no kids thing, I'm totally fine if you don't want to cruise with kids, it really doesn't bother me, but it tends to like attract like the complete end up other end of the spectrum of people who just like, because there's no kids, I don't know how to describe this in English, but like it's like they come about it from a different perspective as opposed to people who like the people that like go on a cruise and want to hang out in the solarium, if that makes sense. I don't know if I'm making any
Yeah,
sense
yeah.
here, but it's just like I don't know, something about it just rubs me the wrong way, and it's just not my thing. Now, granted, I haven't tried it, so to be fair, it's not an opinion that's based on any experience, just my observations.
It's definitely a little bit more party centric.
Yeah,
There's a lot of the social activities are based around the pool and being outside in the sun with a bunch of other people, and that's different than like Disney. They've got
hmm,
stuff indoors, they've got family games and stuff like that. So it is different. The If you find the right people, and Billy's great at finding the right people, by the way, for a cruise, it's very relaxing and very entertaining. So, um, yeah. So I mean, it comes down to what you're open to experience and who you're with a lot. And I would say that that's more true on Virgin than other cruise lines too. So that could be your thing, right? It could be if you happen to be with the people who are grumpy for whatever reason or who don't like to be entertained the way that you are, then it's different. But so far I've had nothing but positive experiences on all of it. Yeah.
are you booked on Star of the Seas, by the way?
Not stars. I think the next cruise I have booked is the Celebrity PowerPoint.
Power,
That one
yes.
comes out in yeah, so Laurel and I mean remember Laurel's my wife is in school now, so we can't go
Uh-huh.
she's going like year round school, so we can't really plan trips in like September because she's in school in September.
Yeah.
Um and so the next one is on the Celebrity Excel. And then we just went on we took our second or third trip on Celebrity Beyond um in the last 6 months, and I really like Celebrity as well. That's a Royal line, right?
Yeah,
Celebrity.
absolutely. I love Celebrity. I've been on there a couple times, and I'm really excited about the
Yeah.
River Cruise product. I think that's going to be really
Me
interesting.
too. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think
Yeah.
river cruising looks really good. The thing I like with Celebrity is you can book a GTY suite at the last minute, and get a suite, and the suites are nice for
Yeah.
like half as much as Disney.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so like you could
They're
get a suite on Celebrity for half the cost of a standard stateroom on Disney,
oh yeah,
which
they're
is
priced really well. Celebrity's like in a
yeah,
really interesting point, even compared to Royal. Sometimes you can find
yeah,
some really good deals on there. So
yeah. I like the staterooms. I like Eden. I like the restaurants. Um, yeah, and it's a bigger ship, and I like the bigger ship. I like the garden, the area upstairs on the top deck. That's really really good. Yeah.
well, Len, of course, if you're looking to hear more of all the information Len has, which is just an enormous source of great info about Disney World and Disneyland, Disney Cruise Line, everything Disney, you should definitely check out touringplans.com. Len, thank you so much for being here and talking some Royal Caribbean versus the world, but mostly Florida.
Yeah, Royal's doing really really well, and I love your YouTube channel. We watch it all the time.
Thank you so much.
All right, Matt.
Okay, friends, time to answer your listener emails. This is part of the episode where I answer the emails you've sent me. If you want to send me your emails, you can do so by sending your emails to matt@royalcaribbeanblog.com. First emails from Travis from Ohio. Hi, Matt. My name is Travis. My family and I will be taking our second cruise in August. We'll be heading to Coco Key and Grand Island, Bahamas. I have tried finding information about Grand Island, but have not come up with a whole lot of details. I believe that this is a stop the same as Freeport, but I was wondering if you shed some light on it. I've also read a lot of people recommending just to stay on the ship at Freeport. Do you think there are affordable excursions or things to do for a family of 6, 14, 2 parents at the stop, or should we just stay on the ship? It's a great question, and you were correct. It is Freeport. Freeport's on Grand Bahama Island, so it's like the city is Freeport. Grand Bahama Island is it's like city in the state in the United States. Anyway, Freeport is really not a great port. Once upon a time, they had these grandiose plans that they were going to buy the harbor over there, and they were going to buy a resort that's over there that's closed up, and they were going to buy both, and they were going to develop this massive port infrastructure very similar to what they're doing now in Costa Maya with Perfect Day Mexico. It was never going to be a perfect day, but it was going to be like, develop the harbor, develop a hotel, add water park, things like that. Anyway, the point is that these plans came up pre-pandemic. Like, I think it was like right before February 2020. And then they were like, yeah, we really don't have the money for it. And then also they started renegotiating with Bahamas and it didn't really go anywhere. So long story short, that's not happening. And I feel like Royal Caribbean is left holding the key, or what's the metaphor? Left holding the bill. Because they committed the ships to go there. And really Freeport's like the leftover, we can't send them to Nassau, so we're going to send them to Freeport. And unfortunately, what you read is pretty much correct. There's really nothing great. I can't think of there are beaches there. I'm going to say if you're going to any other place, you're going to Coco. That's a great beach day. I don't really think you need to double down over in Freeport. So I say, stay on the ship. I think that's probably the best thing. I always hate to tell anybody in any port they should stay on the ship, especially if you've never been there before. But man, is Freeport disappointing on a variety of levels. So, all right. Next email is from Brian, who's got another question about a shore excursion. I wanted to share with you that we had a great excursion last week in Roatan during the Royal Caribbean offered excursion zipline, adventure, and beach break. We did 9 zip lines, with the longest being 1,000 feet over the jungle for about an hour to an hour and a half. We then went to a private beach club for about the rest of the time. Total time of the excursion was about 5 hours. The beach club was great, as they provided loungers, but food and drink were extra. The beach club was not very busy, and the sand was amazing along with the water. Thanks for all you do. We had a great cruise on Icon. That's great. It's a very nondescript excursion, zipline, adventure, and beach break, but hey, that sounds amazing. 9 zip lines, holy smokes. I don't know if I can handle that. I like zip lines, I've done them, and I like to think I'll continue to do them, but they are a little intimidating. Maybe I'm just becoming more self-aware as I get older. Next, we have an email from Justin B. from San Diego, California. We are locked in for 7-day sailing on Icon next July with family. We're looking to book a cabana at Coco Key and know they have a maximum guest limit of 8. We have a total of 9 people in our group. However, one of the kids will only be 2. Will he be counted towards the limit of 8? Thanks for all you do to the Royal Caribbean community and beyond. We look forward to Mondays on YouTube. The answer to your question is technically yes, probably no. You did not mention which cabana you booked at Coco. The one that'll give you trouble would be Coco Beach Club. I have, been able to get 2-year-olds are they're like luggage, right? This is like one of those real world versus what's around the policy. The policy is 8, you know this. But the reality is a 2-year-old does not really take up space, so to speak, as an adult would. I can't promise you. I always give this answer in a lot of cases. Officially the policy is 8. And you can pay extra to get the 9th person there when you speak to the cabana host, or I think even on the shore excursion desk on board your ship, you can do that. My point, though, is that probably don't have to. If you have a cabana that's at South Beach, Chill Island, or Oasis Lagoon, you I hate to say this, but you probably don't have. You don't have. Have somebody show up later with the kid. But, they're a little less stringent. It's really the beach club that has an admission. Obviously, Hideaway Beach would too, but 2-year-old probably not going to the adults only area. So, there you go. We're going to go to our next email now. And that email is from Francine. Thank you for all that you do to educate us about cruising. I'm from Hawaii. It'll be our first cruise to Alaska in June. I bring my family of 8 people in total. Since I'm linked to everyone on my account, can I check in everyone just to get the earliest check-in time and then let everyone fill out their information later? Absolutely, Francine. You're 100% right, and you really should do that. Once you link reservations together, you can check everybody in. You can even see their set sale pass, which is kind of neat and weird at the same time, but you can totally do that. Next email is from Dave. Hey, Matt, appreciate all your insight and advice and medium content. Big fan since 2019. This November will be on our 4th Royal Caribbean sailing since 2022, Utopia, and 3rd Oasis class with Wonder and Symphony, and we've also sailed on Navigator. I've been checking the cruise calendar via the app, but have not seen any entertainment listed. So when should I expect the shows to be loaded for our November sailing on Utopia of the Seas? And the answer is right around 30 days, Dave. It's kind of an inexact science. Royal isn't like... It's not like the check-in is 45 days at midnight, boom, right? The shows are like, well, kind of 30 days, weather permitting. So just got to keep checking back, but right around there. And our last email is from Josh Albertson, who gives us a follow-up, actually, an email I sent a little while ago. Just back from our Harmony of the Seas cruise in 2024, my wife and I went solo on Wonder, so we had an Oasis class ship to compare. My kids loved Harmony. My wife and I agreed there was no significant difference between Harmony and Wonder as far as stuff for the kids that we care about. For us, the only big thing Wonder was on Harmony is a much better solarium. So in our experience, any Oasis class cruise ship is probably equivalent to any other Oasis cruise ship for kids under 6. There you go, Josh. Thanks for the email there. All right, that was a little faster than I thought. All right, one more email we'll get to here, and that is from Mark Kelly. Hey, Matt. My wife and I follow your YouTube channels frequently and love them. We only cruise Royal Caribbean currently or Diamond Plus. We also only cruise out of Galveston and mostly 5-nighters back to back. We discovered today a way to get free internet for all 5-nighters due to the route. I thought I'd let you know so you might post about it so others can save a ton of money as well. First day internet is of course free until at least the early evening as the ship departs Galveston. At sea on the second day, use just one of the free internet offers that get Diamond Plus members get. The third and fourth days are in port, where most cell phone companies offer free internet anyway. And then at sea, on the way back to Galveston, get the second free day of internet from the internet office. Let me know what you think. This would certainly work. I mean, you obviously don't have internet on embarkation day when you set sail until midnight, right? And you already said that. And then you would not have internet on day 3 and 4, day 3 and 4 when you're in port in the evening, right? Once you're there, you're good, but in the evening you wouldn't. But this is great for somebody who has very casual internet needs. Me, this doesn't work for. But for non-nerds, I think this would work as a great way, really maximizing your Diamond internet days once you get there. Because Diamond, you get 1 free day of internet. Diamond Plus, you get 2. Pinnacle, you get unlimited free internet, which is amazing. So, any way you can maximize it, or even better yet, Mark, if you're traveling with a spouse or kids, you can, piggyback and share the package, right? You get it these days, your wife gets it another day, and you can get it that way. So these very, very astute and good tip right there. Thank you to everybody for checking out this episode of the Royal Caribbean Blog podcast. And thanks for listening. This has been Matt from RoyalCaribbeanBlog.com. We'll talk again real soon.